So today we are going to be talking about 5 globe Earth anomalies and the top 5 flat Earth secrets because they kind of go hand in hand. So number 1 is going to be seafloor spreading, and it was suggested that the entire variation of the intensity and polar of Earth's magnetic field is supported by the extreme linearity and continuity of oceanic magnetic anomalies and their symmetry about the axis of ridges. Mountains equal seafloor spread, which equals, of course, expansion. Number 2, velocity of particles. The formula for velocity can also be quantified by y, parentheses r, comma t, parentheses, which is the distance of particles from the origin, time, also the sign atoms reacting in the radiator field. And this can be measured, of course, the particle's proper time, which can be referred to velocity. Number 3, 3D inversion of the magnetic field at 90 degrees north on the East Pacific rise. Overlapping spreading centuries represent a new type of plate boundary interaction in which an echelon, how convenient because it is of the upper echelon, rise segments overlap significantly and are not joined by a transform fault. A 3D Fourier inversion of the magnetic field was performed on an overlapping spreading century to remove the effects of topography and ridge orientation. A magnetic high exists at the tip of one of the two ridge segments, which of course is forcing an apparent curve, but not in the way that you may think. Number 4, the whole message, which means hologram, like it's giving you the whole message. So a Hungarian scientist by the name of Dennis Gabar, as I stated earlier, he did an excerpt. He is a scientist along with a whole lot of other scientists, which have to go through very strategic voting and different stuff like that to even be a part of the society. And they are offering up excerpts. And again, he was a Hungarian scientist by the name of Dennis Gabar, and he was coined the father of holography. I apologize, holography in 1908. And he also studied in integral photography, and basically he was one of the 4 men to invent holographic cameras. And he wasn't the first one, of course, to come up with the idea, but he was amongst those group of scientists within the Royal Society who came up with the idea. And he actually ended up winning a Nobel Peace Prize in 1908 for recording and producing natural color and topography. But most importantly, he understood that the Earth itself exhibits an effect of visual geometry where it exhibits a parallax and upon an array or a plane. So, and you all would like to guess, his specialty, of course, was oscillation graphs. And of course, that's not a coincidence at all, as I've been talking about oscillations with you all, as I will later. And so we have all seen, like in movies and everything, and when people go to space on these commercial airplanes, low altitude satellites and stuff like that, that the Earth seems to bend at times and kind of like it's not very solid and sturdy. And that's basically what this is, where the array or the plane exhibits parallax. And again, that basically notably shifts your perspective. So to them in the ISS, of course, they are traveling within wave patterns, or should I say latitudes of particles, as we've talked about. And so when traveling on a wave pattern or over a wave function, they are within a certain, as they would like to call it, rotation or orbit. So that's basically what that is. And so within those latitudes of particles, they do not intersect at their lines. So that's basically what they're traveling around, the bands of particles. Now, in Dennis Gabar's um, excerpt, of course, he used a two-step process where he used an object, of course. We are going to say the Earth as it illuminates, and it has a coherent, constant vibration, an acoustic or harmonic vibration, and he basically used diffraction and interference. So we all know what the diffraction was, of course, as I stated in number 3, the 3D inversion of the magnetic field, and how there is an inversion at the 90-degree north, the 90-degree, north on the East Pacific rise. So that would be the diffraction, and of course the interference would be those particles that we spoke about in number 2, such as the velocity of particles. Again, they operate within their own lines of longitude. Some people would like to say lines of latitude, but we're talking east to west direction. Number 5 is going to be 3 space. Now, of course, the word space in the word 3 space actually pertains to an actual physical space, like an apartment. You're inside of the apartment, as such as we live within. But the metamorphosis of the waves can be propagated and interfered and or upon by the stationary or oscillation positions of particles and wave functions within those longitude lines. So the theory of relativity has to be revised because it is not within the spectrum of these lines, because it is in high probability that it is in fact not space-time curving, but instead particles moving at a constant, and therefore makes the time component of velocity, as mentioned earlier, equal to unity, which in turn can equal to what some would like to call motion.